Gentlemen, I'd like to recognize the gentlelady from Washington, Ms. DelBene.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all our witnesses for joining us today. I appreciate it. Mr. Barnes, former President Trump once said it's easy to win a trade war. We all know that's not true, but it seems like our colleagues on the other side of the aisle want to open up a new front in this war by introducing a bill that would certainly wage a tax war. Just this morning, the Republicans introduced yet another retaliation proposal intended to punish our trading partners. And so, Mr. Barnes, I was wondering, are you aware of any tax wars that have been waged in the past? And in your judgment, is it easy to win a tax war?
Thank you for the question. It certainly is not easy to win a tax war. Let me mention a couple of examples. It's more frequent that the war is waged through administrative measures than through legislation, because it's rare to have legislation that targets one country or two countries. But administratively, it happens quite often. In the 1990s, Korea was administering their tax treaties and their tax laws in a way that went way beyond the words of the statutes and of their authority. When Korea wanted to join the OECD in the 1990s, the OECD, the US, and other countries said, no, you cannot join unless you go back and begin to follow the rules, the written rules, as you agreed to them in your tax treaties. And Korea agreed and has done so and joined the OECD. The most amusing one is probably the effort by India to attack the companies that have invested in India in call centers, 10,000 person, 20,000 person call centers. India has been extraordinarily aggressive. This was particularly in the early 2000s in taxing, one would say overtaxing, the foreign investors, including U.S. investors in the call centers. The Philippines government, in a tongue-in-cheek but very heartfelt letter that was published on the front page of the newspaper in India, said, "Thank you, India, for attacking these taxpayers. You are the best message for why investors should come to us in the Philippines." And it was, in fact, part of the reason that Philippines grew as a center for call centers. So I think when there have been inappropriate administration of taxes, rarely by legislation, more often by administration, it has generally backfired and reduced investment.
Thank you. It's my understanding that based on the JCT provided data, when you look at all of the U.S. employees of firms that are based in countries that are jurisdictions targeted by the chairman's bill, you get 8.9 million employees. So the Republican bill would place 8.9 million U.S. jobs at risk. That's not to suggest that UTPR is necessarily good tax policy or there aren't legitimate concerns about it. However, it seems that starting a tax war and putting at risk millions of U.S. jobs is not the right answer. I wondered, Mr. Barnes, in your professional opinion, what's the best way for the United States to move forward so as to make the UTPR less of a concern?
I think the short-term fix on Monday sets a path going forward. There are countries that I think we can agree are, I'll call them full tax, not necessarily high tax countries, but full tax countries. And I think we could either push for, maybe successfully, maybe not, push for a situation in which certain countries are acknowledged as full tax countries and the UTPR need not apply. The other would be a mechanical calculation. Find ways in which a taxpayer who, because of credits or other reasons, is below 15% this year, but over a 3-year average or 5-year average, they pay reasonable taxes. They may be exempt from the UTPR. I think if the U.S. is at the table, then creative tax negotiators can come up with approaches that would fully protect U.S. tax on U.S. income. But we need to be at the table for those negotiations to be successful.
Thank you so much. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.